This is how much it costs to fill up my Sheepey twin turbo R8. The car was basically fully empty. We're about to conclude. Oh, stop, please.
Man.
Oh man.
It's like California, but
yeah.
you guys at least get 92.
Oh yeah, you guys have 91.
Yeah, so you guys were like, you win on that.
A little bit, yeah, on the octane.
93 to make that worth it.
All right, 111. For you know, how quick this thing dissipates fuel, that's not that nice.
No.
That sucks. So you're interested in the cost of a Sheepey twin turbo kit. Today's background jingle is sponsored by the ice cream van, the sights and sounds of this neighborhood. So for those of you who clicked on this video who are new to things, this is my lovely 2017 base Audi R8 V10. I bought it back in early of summer of 2021. It has come in many different iterations since then. We've had full matte wraps with doodles all over it. We've had each panel being a different color for a Harlequin. And as well as exhaust wise, we've had an FI exhaust on there. We've had a fully custom titanium race exhaust. And now, after owning and driving it NA for over 2 years, we have now added some boost. The boost in question is the Sheepey Race 800 package that they have offered. We have our heat exchangers back here. Also peep the Stay So Performance titanium race brace right back under here. There are lovely Precision 6466 turbos, which are a lot bigger in person than on camera, and they're finished off in white to complement the Suzuka gray, but basically white paint that we have on the car. So right in here is our cooling. We have a full water tank as well as water pump and some extra cooling implemented in the front down there. It sadly takes up some space. Be prepared to lose about a quarter of your front space up here, if not more, because you don't want to really squish things into these lines and fittings down there. Now, what did I pay for this kit? Well, contrary to what you would believe, I actually didn't work insider with Sheepey Race for this kit. I bought it in a natural way that anyone else could, and that was through a kit being resold. I got sent a listing from one of my buddies that was on Instagram, and someone was selling a new Sheepey 800 kit for an R8 at basically a used price. There wasn't really any big catch there besides the fact that someone else had already bought it, but the kit was never mounted, never installed, and never used whatsoever. In fact, the kit itself never even left Sheepey Race. I ended up working through Sheepey to, I guess, get the kit all shipped out here. But I, in fact, actually ended up buying a kit off of someone else, and that is how I bought the kit alone, just in itself, for $20,000. Once I was through contacting Sheepey about obtaining the kit and all that kind of stuff, they asked how I wanted to go about tuning, because obviously there are specific things you have to do, and this kit, the 800 kit, still works with the factory Audi ECU, doesn't have Motec or doesn't have upgraded fuel system or anything crazier like that. I basically paid an additional $5 grand to have Alex from Sheepey basically wire in as the car was at a local shop around here and just check all the readings and basically make sure the tune that was flashed on was all correct. Could I have probably saved more money and had the local shop tune it? Probably, but I didn't want to risk that. Having the tune not be perfect could be one small thing that could end up being catastrophic way down the line. So I wanted the man himself, who frankly developed these kits, to know exactly what to flash on the car. So I was willing to spend that additional $5 grand to have him wire in and basically flash it. So Sheepey is based in Temecula, California. I'm up here in Seattle, Washington. Basically, I'm ordering the kit, getting it shipped up to here, and then Alex is tuning it remotely from California while the car is up here. And of course, that means a shop around this area has to deal with the installation, because as much as people like to give me a hard time for not installing this myself, this is way out of my caliber, and it is just simply not worth it for my learning purposes to have something go wrong with a car modification on this level. So I would rather trust the best of hands to handle that, and that was German Auto House, which they did a phenomenal job. And their cost for installation on one of these kits, if you go to them and say, hey, I want this installed, is gonna be over $5,000. In total, I've paid a little over $30,000 for my Sheepey kit added onto this car. And to me, it actually still was a good deal on how everything worked out, because on their website, their prices are $38,000 installed at their place for this full kit. However, depending on where you are located, that doesn't include shipping on getting your car down there and from, which is gonna at least add on additional several $1,000s onto that. So overall, I safely avoided $10,000, I would say, by happening to find this good deal of a kit that was lying around. Now, the beauty of what I could say from my experience from all of this is that because I didn't work with Sheepey and I basically bought a used kit and they never knew exactly who I was throughout any of this communication and all the process, I basically got to be treated like an ordinary customer going through all this and not get what sometimes the YouTubers get as, you know, the better treatment. And to that, I will say, if you're gonna do what I did, Sheepey does need to work on their infrastructure on shipping out remote kits. Yes, I happen to slightly be in a unique situation by buying a kit off of someone else. However, Sheepey on their website, last time I checked, offers full kits that you can buy from them and have them shipped up, and then you can have your kit installed wherever shop at, you know, your place as you want. And so they offer this treatment. And with them doing that, I would say that my treatment of similar end, because I got my kit essentially from their place regardless. It was as if I bought a brand new kit from them anyway. I just happened to get a discount. I would say that their shipping on getting the parts out, it needs some work. My only complaint on this whole process was I was expecting a full turbo kit to just show up outside of the door of my house once I paid for a full turbo kit. And surely enough, we were initially missing lines, we were missing the full water tank, we were missing the water pump. And then shortly, once we got that sent up and we got the car in the shop discovered that we're still missing fittings and we were still missing other minor components. And waiting for those parts, I would always be given certain excuses here about how their shipping guy was out sick or the communication would just be really delayed. So I would just say from my personal experience that if you're gonna do a remote kit from Sheepey, if you're watching this, you guys just gotta work on your infrastructure, on communicating and dealing with people that are outside of your guys' warehouse and making sure all of the parts are getting up there in a matter of good time. Because the issue wasn't that they didn't have the parts. They had the parts. The issue was them like basically remembering and taking the time to deal with me and actually shipping them up. And for spending the money on a whole kit, you just kind of expect to get the whole kit initially and not have to deal with waiting end on end on end. But it's something that I think they could totally solve, and it's also something that you can totally avoid if you just decided to have your kit installed at their facility, because they would probably, you know, knock it out and get your car right back to you initially once it's there. They can pay attention to it, they can focus on it, and they won't forget about it if it's not there. Was buying this kit worth it overall? Do I regret it? Supercharger versus twin turbo? These are questions that I've got asked a lot ever since I did this to my car, and I do want to address it in this video for the people that are very fortunate to be in this position of wondering what they want to do with their V10 platform car. And what I will say is, I mean, it depends on a lot of factors. If you live in a dense area like Seattle, LA, the East Coast, anything like that, I mean, I would say 800 horsepower is good and you do not need more than that. I personally just struggle to use all of the base standard of horsepower for this kit, because the Sheepey kits, they just keep going up. You can end up with like 2,000 horsepower if you have enough money for it. More horsepower is definitely going to do you better off with more land. Reliability, so far I've had no issues. I feel like with the 800 kit, you're gonna be pretty safe on things. I've had friends that have been launching their car with the 800 kit and then very quickly they had to replace a clutch. It's all about how you drive it, and a lot of people do say that the supercharger kits are a lot more reliable, but even those two is a lot of immediate added power, which, you know, will eventually in time wear and tear the clutch and other components. So both are about similar added power, 800 as well as 800 with a supercharger, so they're both going to be similarly reliable, I would say. For the context of what I have, I absolutely do not regret adding the turbo kit to this car, because one, I got to enjoy NA for a long 2+ years, and two, I also have a supercharged Screamer V8 machine that sits outside, so this is quite a different of personality to my current selection of vehicles. And that's another thing I would also ask yourself is, you know, if you happen to be fortunate to have other stuff, then what makes the most sense for you, having a supercharged car, an NA car, or a twin turbo car. Just this past trip to Car Week really solidified why I love the turbo kit onto this car, because cruising on the freeways, it is an amazing road trip machine. It is super quiet, but yet also you can just big toe and teleport all around because, you know, you have a lot of power back there. But then also once you're in town, like a quiet town like Monterey where cops are super strict and other things like that, you can still make cool noises without being insanely obnoxious, because turbo spool isn't that crazy loud in comparison to a screaming V8. And I'm able to just drive this car without getting in trouble, but really getting satisfied by the spool, the noises that it makes. And it definitely, I would say turbos is way more of a change in character as far as how it drives and how it is than a supercharger kit. Probably the highlight for me on having turbos is that because they're all the way back there, there is a little bit of lag. That can be some negatives at sometimes when you're trying to do a really aggressive pull and you might be too high of a gear. But when it really comes in strong and when I really love it the most, is the best way I could describe it, is that sometimes I'll be cruising and I'll floor it and it'll take a little bit, and eventually it'll kick in when I'm not expecting it. And it allows me to feel like a passenger as I'm driving my own car. And if you've ever, you know, ridden passenger, you'll know that it always feels quicker in the passenger seat than behind the wheel. Overall, I definitely do not regret adding it onto my car, and it is the perfect conclusion of kind of this car's arc within my ownership. It's really been that one last thing that I gotten to do this car that made it that much more surreal of a dream of an experience, because I used to see other twin turbo cars and just think there's no way I'd ever have that. Even in the early stages of owning this car, if you told me, when am I going to twin turbo, I would have told you it's way too expensive. I can't ever justify doing it. I'd never do it. But to now finally be in the position where I was able to justify it and I made it happen, like, it's been worth it and it's been surreal. So that's what I'll end on. Can we get 100? Can we get 100?
It's like an auction at this point.